Paul Merson has unleashed a blistering attack on Alexander Isak, branding the Newcastle United striker's conduct ridiculous and accusing him of tearing apart the bond he once shared with the St. James Park faithful. In Merson's view, the Swede's actions in his bid to force through a summer move to Liverpool have not only damaged his reputation, but also destroyed the legacy he had built during his time in the famous black and white stripes. Over the past 3 seasons, Isak has been central to Newcastle's resurgence. Since joining from Real Sociedad, he has scored crucial goals, led the line with intelligence and flair, and become one of the Premier League's most feared forwards. His goals helped deliver the club's first major domestic trophy in 70 years, when they lifted the Carabao Cup, and he played a vital role in qualifying for the Champions League in 2 of the past 3 seasons. In the eyes of many supporters, he had cemented himself as a hero. But that status now hangs by a thread after a summer of mounting tension, standoffs, and public declarations. Reports have made it clear that Isak has no intention of continuing at Newcastle. His absence from the club's preseason tours of Asia was the first red flag, followed by revelations that he had gone AWOL, flying to Spain to train privately with his former club. This week brought another twist when it emerged he had moved out of his home on Tyneside, a gesture widely interpreted as the clearest signal yet of his determination to leave. Liverpool's interest has been no secret, with Jurgen Klopp's successor Arne Slot identifying Isak as a marquee signing to spearhead the champions. Attack for years to come, Liverpool have already tested Newcastle's resolve with a £110 million offer plus add-ons, but the Magpies have flatly rejected it. Manager Eddie Howe and the club hierarchy remain adamant that Isak is not for sale, setting a £150 million valuation that they hope will deter further bids, but the player's stance, reportedly stating he will never play for Newcastle again, has thrown the club into an awkward and potentially destabilizing situation. Just weeks before the season kicks off, Merson, speaking on Sky Sports, made it clear where his sympathies lie, accusing the forward of showing utter contempt for the club that, in his words, put him on the map. The former Arsenal and England midfielder said he finds it staggering that a player who has been embraced by the city and given the platform to shine on the world stage would choose to act in this way. He's taking a massive gamble by saying, "He'll never play for Newcastle again," Merson said. "Newcastle's a big city, but it's a one-club city. Everybody knows everybody in football terms, and it's a fishbowl. I wouldn't want to be in his shoes if this transfer doesn't happen." He's upset a lot of fans. If he stays and doesn't get the move, he's going to have to score a ridiculous amount of goals just to win people back over, and even then, it won't be the same. Merson pointed out that had Isak quietly pursued a move, keeping his intentions private and continuing to give his all on the pitch, he could still have departed with dignity and mutual respect. If he'd just played it straight, given his best, and let the club get a fair deal, everyone could have shaken hands. Newcastle would have made a huge profit, the fans would have thanked him for the memories, and he'd have left as a hero. Now that's gone. It's just turned ugly. The pundit went further, calling the situation ridiculous and emblematic of a wider problem in modern football, the overwhelming power star players can wield in dictating their futures. Players have all the power, Merson lamented. They sign big contracts, they're paid huge money. But as soon as someone comes in with a big offer, they think they can just refuse to play. It's wrong, and it's damaging the game. From Newcastle's perspective, the timing could not be worse. The club had been building momentum, not only on the pitch, but in the transfer market, as they sought to strengthen for another Champions League push. Losing their top scorer now, especially under such acrimonious circumstances, risks derailing that progress. The frustration is compounded by the fact that Newcastle have already turned down a substantial offer, holding firm in the belief they can either keep their man or at least force Liverpool to meet their valuation. Merson speculated that Isak may have assumed Liverpool's opening bid would be enough to seal his exit, underestimating Newcastle's resolve. Maybe he thought £110 million plus add-ons would be a done deal. Newcastle said no, and now it's clear he just wants out. But Liverpool won't go higher if they think Newcastle are stuck with an unhappy player. That's the danger when you push like this, you put your club in a corner, but you also put yourself in one. The fallout from the saga is already having an impact on Newcastle's preparations. Isak is expected to miss the opening fixtures, including a potentially explosive clash with Liverpool. For Merson, that's an early sign of the damage being done. If they lose 2 of those first 3 games, they'll be under pressure straight away. All of this could have been avoided. It's mind-blowing. One of Merson's strongest points was the reminder that Newcastle played a huge role in elevating Isak's profile. Before arriving on Tyneside, he was a promising but relatively low-profile striker in Spain's La Liga. His performances in England, against the backdrop of the Premier League's global reach, have turned him into a household name. He was obviously a good player before, but how many people really knew about him? Now he's a worldwide star. That's Newcastle's platform that's done that, and now he's throwing it away. Merson's criticism of the player's approach is rooted in the belief that talent alone isn't enough to justify such actions. For him, respect for the club, the supporters, and the contract a player has signed must remain central. He argued that patience could have served Isak far better, with Liverpool or another elite club likely to come calling again in the near future. He's not a one-season wonder. A deal would have happened, if not now, then next summer. Get your head down, train, score goals. The rest takes care of itself. Newcastle fan reaction. The response among Newcastle fans has been furious. Social media platforms have been flooded with messages expressing anger, disappointment, and, for some, outright betrayal. Supporters who once celebrated Isak's goals with joy are now questioning his loyalty and professionalism. Local newspapers and fan forums have debated whether the club should cut ties immediately or force him to see out at least part of his contract. Some argue that keeping an unhappy player could poison the dressing room atmosphere, while others believe selling under pressure sends a dangerous signal to the rest of the squad. The tension is palpable in the city itself. In a one-club town like Newcastle, football conversations dominate pubs, workplaces, and family dinners. To many Geordies, Isak's actions feel like a personal slight, a rejection of their unwavering support. In the Gallowgate end, where passion runs deepest, banners and chants in the opening home games could reflect the bitterness brewing over this saga. Liverpool's perspective from Liverpool's side. This is as much a calculated chess move as it is an opportunity. They know that Isak fits their tactical blueprint perfectly, a forward capable of leading the line, pressing from the front, and linking play with midfield creators like Florian Wirtz and Dominic Szoboszlai. The Reds also recognize that Newcastle's hardline stance may soften if the standoff drags on, particularly with the player refusing to feature in early matches. The Anfield hierarchy has been here before. Liverpool have successfully navigated drawn-out transfer sagas in the past, landing players like Virgil van Dijk and Alisson Becker after initial bids were rebuffed. Patience, combined with strategic pressure, could again be the key. And with Mohamed Salah entering the latter stages of his contract, adding a long-term attacking focal point like Isak is seen internally as part of their succession planning. Historical parallels in the Premier League, the Isak saga has echoes of other messy exits in Premier League history. Philippe Coutinho's eventual move from Liverpool to Barcelona in 2018 came after a series of bids, refusals, and a player making it clear he wanted out. More recently, Harry Kane's attempt to force a move from Tottenham to Manchester City in 2021 led to a summer of headlines, though in that case, the player ended up staying another season. These cases show the delicate balance clubs must strike between protecting their interests and managing relationships with unsettled stars. Tactical impact for Newcastle and Liverpool if Isak leaves. Newcastle's tactical setup will need major adjustment. Eddie Howe has built his attack around the Swedes' ability to stretch defenses, hold up the ball, and finish clinically. Losing him without a comparable replacement risks blunting their cutting edge. For Liverpool, the addition of Isak would allow Slot to rotate more aggressively, manage Darwin Núñez's form and fitness, and create new combinations in attack that could keep opponents guessing. The PR battle beyond the footballing implications. There is a public relations war brewing. Newcastle will want to frame the situation as them protecting the club's values and refusing to be bullied, while Isak's camp will seek to portray the move as